Apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. It appears as though we had some slight issues with our broadcasting service, which went down unexpectedly. But we are now back. You've missed approximately 3 to 4 minutes of the racing, I believe. But we will try and catch up with everything that has happened in the time where we have been away. So right now it is the case that up front, after almost half an hour of racing, we can see here Kenny Herman's continuing to hold on to that lead for the time being. As we do get the refresh of the screen, then you can see the circuit map on the top right corner of your screen. But Kenny Herman's right now holding on to lead with a 3.2 second interval between himself and Billy Fletcher. Fletcher, of course, on the fast charge. Johnny Deschamps in P3, continuing to soldier on in that P3 position as he makes his way on through to turn number 12. And then it is the case that Tony Verschaft, a bit further down the order in P4 as it currently stands here, and in a bit of a no man's land. Austin Herford in P5 after his spin at turn number 11 at this corner, only about 6 to 7 laps to go. Now making his way back up the order into P5, and Robert Sunik chasing after him here. And that's our top 6 of the pro drivers, and then our first amateur driver here of Jochen Siegert. Now Jochen Siegert did make the pass on what was Hoos to Hoos early on in the race, and we will take a look back at how that happened, because that happened off camera effectively. But as we see him make his way down right now, he does have the best part of a 5-second gap to Hoos to Hoos, and the German doing a fantastic job, as is, to be fair, the privateer of Hoos to Hoos as he makes his way through and decides to come into the pits here. So interesting reacting, and I think decides to call his pit stop just before the halfway mark. Ben Faines in P9 overall, but that is effectively P7 in the pro category. And as we see his dudes fall down the order, Mark Baker now coming through as well. Baker with some brilliant battling with the drivers around him. As we see a little bit further back there, we've got Kregel, who is a lap down, but then we've got the P11 driver here overall. P10 now with who's pitting is Matthew Prouting here, P3 in the AM category, as he comes roaring down towards turn number 1. Now as he makes his way on through, we can see here that Prouting continuing to push as much as he possibly can right now. Prouting's lap times have been quite strong, it must be said, with the fact that last time around a 55.4 from Prouting compared to Baker, and also Jochen Siegert right now. Jochen Siegert last time at 55.5, Baker at 57.0. So Prouting is closing up to Baker at a rather rapid rate of knots as they make their way across the circuit once more. Moving on further down, we've got Matt Caruana here, who have been pitted quite early on in the race, and we're not sure if that was just his scheduled stop, also to get rid of some potential damage. Again, we're a bit 50-50 on whether there was contact between himself and the driver of Keenan at the time. I believe it was himself and Keenan coming through the corners there, or was it Ben Faines? One of the two of them. But right now, as he makes his way around, Caruana there will be pushing on as much as he possibly can, and the fastest man on circuit right now is Billy Fletcher at last lap of 54.09, and Caruana lapping approximately half a second slower that time around, but of course the lap times oscillate him. That is really the summary of our top 10, as we see DD Vlamink here chasing after Colin Martin, and both drivers have already made at least one visit to the pits. In fact, in the case of Colin Martin, he's made 2 visits to the pits, and as they come out of what is turn number 8 here and head up towards the Schumacher S, you can see that DD Vlamink trying to push every which way he can, but Colin Martin will not want him to get away. In fact, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen, that is Oosterhuis ahead of him, that is not Colin Martin ahead of him, and Oosterhuis being caught up rapidly right now by DD Vlamink, and is one of those situations where I think the AM driver is going to have to accept that the pro is going to come through whether he likes it or not. But further down there, we do see we have Arjen Bakker, who is trying to catch up to the back of Chris Keenan, but Gareth Mills as well also getting into the fight here as they make their way through the left into right-hand combination of what is 11 into a 12. And as they come through the Bilstein corner here of 12 and down towards 13, the run towards Vidal right now, you would have to imagine that Bakker is doing everything he can in order to close up to the back of what is Keenan, but it's Mills who's really starting to build up the pace. It's Gareth Mills as they make their way through the chicane here, and Prouting is in the, well, he's just coming out of the pits. In fact, so Prouting taking his scheduled stop here, and I think doing so in order to clear it before he comes up behind these guys. As let's just take a look here, we have Prouting making his way. He's just going to clear them, we believe, as that is Jeremy Debova coming through. We haven't seen too much of in the racing tonight, having quite a quiet profile, but we can see that here we've got Keenan, who has been able to pull a little bit of gap to Bakker, and Bakker has got Gareth Mills inching closer and closer lap after lap as they come roaring down towards turn number 2. Now, it really has been the story so far for our top drivers in the fact that we've had some major battles earlier on, but then things have calmed down considerably. But right now, you have to imagine that at the head of the amateur pack, you can see how long can he go? How long can he keep this going with regards to the race right now? Vusto's taking his pit stop. You can see it has yet to take his pit stop. There is a sizable gap, and will Siga be able to capitalise, or will it be the case that Vusto's will come back ahead of him come the end of the strategic element when they've both made their pit stops? It'll be very interesting to see, and we will wait and find out, of course. And meanwhile, Prouting making the move there on Jeremy Debova. In fact, Prouting lapping quite a bit faster compared to Jeremy Debova right now. And that's the AM making his way past the Pro here. But it does happen every so often where we have an AM who is flying past some of the Pro drives. This is not the first time in the series where we've seen that happen. If anyone reminds themselves of Long Beach, where George Bland was battling for a considerable time, and that was back in round number 3, where he was battling with the Pros for position, and Bland seemed to be in a world of his own. Well, you've seen that with Prouting here. He seems to have a world of his own with regards to his pace, as Mikkel Andreasen, I believe, has just had a major incident. What's happened to the Dane, as he makes his way back onto the circuit? Something's gone very wrong. Let's take a look. Well, coming down towards turn 8 then, the slow and steady racing driver seems to be in a relatively isolated space. He did have Ed Lack behind him. Has the rear end just gone though under braking? It has indeed. And as he's made his way into the corner, he's then had to wait for drivers to come through and then put himself up onto the grass of the apex of turn 8. So that explains what happened to the Dane, as he's now rejoined down in P23. That's P11 in the AM class. He's made one pit stop already, but indeed all the drivers around him have made their pit stops and are trying to find their way back into the race, effectively. And George Bland behind him in particular would have something to say about that, I can imagine, as they make their way up towards what is the turns 14 and 15. I mean, one driver who just made his way through there right now and is coming through turn number 16 is Billy Fletcher, who is continuing to chase after Heremans here. As Heremans is into the pits right now, so Billy Fletcher has come on through to take the lead for the first time in this race, but he's yet to make his pit stop, and you can imagine for Fletcher right now, it will be all guns blazing to try and get that lead come the end of the pit stop window. Meanwhile, further down the order, Arjen Bakker closing up to the back of Chris Keenan here, but again, just getting it a little bit wrong, a little bit of snake bite there with the rear cars. Keenan goes wide there coming out of turn number 7, and that means that both Mills and Bakker gain a position, and I think it's the case that for Bakker, he'll feel as though he's been quite fortunate with that, because it was not working out for Bakker initially, and he was being caused to close back up towards Gareth Mills, who behind him right now will be closed up once again. But will Bakker find a bit of respite now that he's got some clear air ahead of him? We will have to wait and see. Meanwhile, other updates to give you right now after the pit stops here. We've got Oystein Hereford, who is now up into P4. He's yet to pit, as we are hearing that our driver who did pit a little bit earlier on, Kenny Heremans, has come out in P5 here. He was in the lead, of course, being caught by Billy Fletcher, but right now Kenny Heremans is doing a very good job and not too far from Billy Fletcher's pace in terms of average lap time here. Their fastest respective laps are 54.2 from Heremans, a 53.7 for Fletcher, so it's not as though they're in different worlds right now, and I think Heremans, if he keeps this together, will be definitely looking at a top 3 in the Pro Class, if not a potential shot at the win. But we will have to wait and see as he makes his way on down towards turn number 8. As he does so, of course, here, coming roaring down towards the corner, we can see that meanwhile, a bit further back, we've got Chris Keenan here, who has tried to get himself back up onto the rear of Gareth Mills, and ahead of him, Arjan Bakker still holding on. And these three, I think, are going to be in a race-long battle until they start, well, they've all pitted, it should be pointed out, so they are racing to the end right now, these three. There are no pit stops for these guys, as we know it so far, as they make their way on through turn number 2 and head up towards turn number 3, once again here through the Mercedes arena, and we can see that Gareth Mills closing up very rapidly indeed under braking into 3, but as they come out of the arena, this is where it seems as though Bakker just has a little bit of an edge on the exit there of 4 and 5, and as he comes running up towards 6, Mills has got it to do again. As you can see a little bit further back right now, Alexander Batak snaking his way up to the back of these guys. It's going to be turning into a 4-way battle for P16 overall, or what is P5 in the AM class right now. You love to see it as they make their way down towards the Dunlop curve once again. But meanwhile, further up front, we can see here that you can see it moving out of the way, respecting the fact that the drivers around him are all Pro Class, and see it does not need to battle the Pros. He just needs to worry about battling the AMs, and the AMs are quite a way back. The closest driver, of course, is Mark Baker, a long way down, and as they make their way into turn 1 here, you would have to imagine it's the case that Kenny Heremans right now will be doing everything he can to just try and pull away off into the distance from Jochen and then go chancing after Oystein Hereford and Vishaf. Remember, all the guys ahead of Heremans have yet to pit, and that means for him right now, he has to make time on every single lap. He cannot afford to be held up, whereas the guys ahead will be praying he gets held up, so that when they come into the pits, they get a clear run. But meanwhile, in further up the road, we can see Tony Verschaft here has been closing up to the back to Jean-Louis Deschamps for a sizable period of time right now, and in fact that gap has come down considerably. That last lap from Verschaft to 54.74 versus Jean-Louis Deschamps on a 55.6, and it is the case that Verschaft is closing up a second a lap on average, and this is a very fast pace being shown by the Dutchman indeed, chasing after Deschamps right now as they make their way through turn number 12. And I do wonder, as they come from Bilstein down towards Vidal, will it be the case that we see a potential move in the near future as they roar on through turn number 13 and up towards 14. Now as they make their way through here, it's the case I do not think that Verschaft's going to have the move this time around, but he's definitely got a lot of pace and he's looking to unleash it in very short order as they come on through 14 and 15 and up towards turn number 16. And they do have the traffic in Navarro de Bova ahead of them, who is a lap down, and you would imagine that it would be the case that Deschamps is going to try and use Navarro de Bova as a slipstream magnet there, and he does indeed, gets very close to the back of Navarro as they make their way down into turn 1, and it is the case that Verschaft will not be able to capitalise here on the move into 1. He won't be able to, and in fact, this could buy Deschamps some time here as they make their way through. Navarro, of course, very respectful of the blue flags rules and making sure he moves out of the way, and I suspect he'll try and go deep into 3 to let Verschaft through as they come down to turn 3 here. And in fact, he does move out of the way, and then you can see him just make the snap to move out of the way, and now Verschaft continues racing here. But this buys Deschamps a little bit of time. It buys him some comfort out on the circuit, as meanwhile, we can see that Alexander Batak has made the move here up to what is P17, as we see Matthew Addy coming through as well, and Arjan Craig was jumped to the pits, I should point out, and Gareth Mills. What has happened to Gareth Mills in all of this? We see he's behind them. It seems as though there's been a number of moves. Let's take a look back and see what happened. So this was only moments ago, and you could see ahead of them, I think that there is what was at the time back at, and well, it was Mills who got it wrong under braking into 6, so turn 6 claiming Mills, and then as they made their way through the corner, well, we return to what is the live pictures right now, but then there was the pass by Batak on Keenan, and we look at that as Mills goes into the pits, and here it was quite straightforward. Keenan defended to the inside, and Batak with a very brave move around the outside into the Schumacher S's there. Not a normal move, and I do think it may be the case that Keenan lost it slightly in the run into the Schumacher system, most likely at the Dunlop curve, but as they make their way through, that's how Batak got the move done, and Addy came through with him. So as they now continue on racing here, we can see that they make their way on through turn number 3, and we can see that Addy right now on the offensive versus Batak once again. Of course, these drivers at this point are lapped down on the race leaders, but still racing for very valuable points within the amateur class as they come on through here, and we can see that with Mills into the pits for what is his schedule starting also probably to change tyres because of a flat spot, we can note that is the fact that Matthew Addy right now really all over the back of Alexander Batak, and we know how much pace Addy has in that Ferrari at circuits right now. It hasn't always worked out for him, but he's going for it. And I can tell you that Tony Verschaft has made the move on Jean-Louis Deschamps. How did it happen? Let's take a look. So this was in the run in towards what was turn number 14 into Vidal here, and Verschaft decided he's got the run, and he went for it on the inside there, almost overstepped it on the brakes there. You could see how he had to really stop the car, but in the end, as he made it through 16, just managed to get it braked up very nicely for 16, and then a good run down towards 1 got him the position there. So Verschaft up into P2 right now, but with that battling between Verschaft and Deschamps, Billy Fletcher is now almost 18 seconds up the road. But of course, he won't be thinking about these guys. The driver he will be worried about is our P5 man, Kenny Herron, who is the only driver in our top 5, and that's our top 5 consisting of pro drivers, to have pitted so far as they make their way on down around the circuit. Meanwhile, Alexander Batak, we're hearing, has had a slight incident here, our driver down in P19. What's happened to the Audi driver? So this was moments ago, and as he made his way out towards turn 11, does turn 11 claim another victim here on the rear end of the car? It looks as though he's gone a bit too deep. He's missed his braking point and had to stamp on the brakes just to avoid going into the wall. Well controlled there by Batak to stop it from sliding completely to the wall, but that's going to cost him dearly as he makes his way on round. We've got some more pit stops coming up right now. Jeremy Dubova into the pits. I can see out my pit window, but meanwhile Prouting here battling with Oosterhuis. He's going round the outside. Oh goodness me, and Oosterhuis with contact there on Prouting, and that will have derailed Prouting's charge there after what was going to be the gain for P3 in the AM class. We only just caught the end of that, but the bit where the collision occurred, and Mikkel Andreasen, we're hearing, has just jumped to the pit. But Prouting who's here, and you can see the gap between them is 2 seconds right now, and this is going to buy the likes of Mark Baker and also Jochen Siegert time. And remember, Baker and Siegert in the AM class are P2 and P1 drivers respectively, have yet to pit, and that could mean that Oosthuizen and Prouting have just ended up coming out behind them when all the strategy is done right now. We have still got 19 minutes of racing to go, and we're waiting to see when Jochen Siegert and Mark Baker, who you're looking at right now, decides to come into the pits, as we're hearing that Ben Faines has come into the pit lane from what was at the time P7 overall, and Matt Caruana right now making this recovery drive, still charging up the order. He's in P7 and trying to hunt down that top 5 as much as he possibly can. And it has been pointed out to us, and we said this earlier, but I think it may have got cut off when we lost the connection to the broadcasting service, that Matt Caruana made a car switch earlier in the season, which saw him docked points. So as a result, right now, Caruana does not see any more points deductions, and as a result, what you saw in the standings earlier is the true figure. We won't be seeing a further points deduction come the end of tonight. That's what I've been informed, but as he makes his way around right now, Caruana will know that the championship is now starting to slip a bit away from him, with Fletcher leading and potentially on course to make it 2 wins out of 2 tonight, as we see Caruana making his way on through, down through turn number 7 right now and heading up towards 8. But as Prouting here continues to follow who's down towards what is turn number 1, and I think here it's going to be the case that Prouting is going to look for the move once again into the Mercedes arena, or is he going to be a bit cautious versus Oosthuizen? There's already been contact between the two of them once. Will he go for it again, going through 2 into 3? He looks at it, but he doesn't go for it here. And as we ride on board with our BMW driver here, in fact, it looks like he's had a run wide there. I think Prouting getting it a little bit wrong. We're about to ride on board, but he's recovered to the circuit. I think Prouting just getting a little too eager on the power on the exit of 2 in the run down towards 3. Further down the road, I can tell you that Addy chasing after Arjen Bakker right now, and it does look as though with Batak making that mistake up into turn 11, Addy has really benefited from drivers around him making mistakes and is trying to make the charge right now to get himself into the top 5 in the amateur class here. How far can he go? Well, it's the fact that with all these drivers having pitted, well, Bakker's only the best part of 7/10 of a second up the road, and the next driver up the road from him, of course, is 5 seconds further up, and that is Prouting. Then it's a further 2 seconds to Oosthuizen, because we could be looking at here a potential P3 from Addy if he can clear Bakker. That is the big challenge for him with 17 minutes remaining as they make their way on around right now. And you can see Addy all over the back of the Porsche drivers. We ride on board here with the Ferrari 488 as he comes roaring through the Schumacher S. He's got very close. He's got the rotation through the corners and coming up in towards turn number 11 here. He looks on the outside. Is he going to be able to sweep around? No, he looks at the cutback, but there's too much Porsche in the way to be able to go for it. But he looks into the inside into 12 into Bilstein, but he's not able to there. Bakker taking the momentum round the outside on him, and as they come roaring down towards Vidal now, coming up to the right and King of 13 will head into towards the Vidal chicane of 14 and 15. You can see he has to back off here and prepare another move. Now doing so, of course, at this point, Addy, a very calm and collected individual, we know, with a lot of pace and potential. He'll be thinking about the long game. He won't be just trying to force a move on his rival here as they make their way through turn 16 and onto another lap. But you can see there, coming out the corner, I think Addy wants to be more aggressive in the run, as we can see Bakker driving off the racing line there and going defensive into 1, getting rid of the slipstream, but that weave in itself cost him some time, and Addy not falling for it as they make their way into 1. And as they come on through into the Yokohama S hairpin here, you can see as the camera goes to the exterior, it's the fact that they go side by side up into turn 2, and Addy finds himself on the outside once again as they make their way down into turn number 3 into the Mercedes arena, definitely, as they make their way out now towards 4 and 5. We can see there's no way through for the time being for Addy. He stays behind, but inching ever closer and trying to mount that pressure as he comes on down towards turn number 7. And Prouting, meanwhile, in a similar situation here, all over the back of Oosthuizen as he closes up. And as they make their way down in towards Dunlop, will it be the case that he goes to move on the inside here? Oosthuizen is going to be on the outside, trying to bank it all the way around. Prouting's there, however, and I think he might have done it this time as they drag race their way up the hill towards the Schumacher S. It's a long run up the hill right now, but Prouting has got it done. He's up into P13 overall. That's P3 in the AM class, but he has lost a lot of time doing it, and he will know how dearly that's cost him. As Jochen Seeger is into the pits here. Our race leader in the AM class is in. This releases Mark Baker. Oh no, it doesn't, because Mark Baker also pits here with 15 minutes to go. Now, where is Matthew Prouting? Well, he's just making his way up towards Vidal right now. He is a long way from Vidal. I think Seeger and Baker will both come back out ahead right now, as we're hearing that Seeger is already leaving his pit box and leaving the pit lane. Meanwhile, for Baker, you can hear right now that it's the fact that Baker is still in the pit lane here, so it may be the case. Well, Seeger has definitely come on through. Seeger has made his way out with Richon moving out of the way. Baker still in his pit box here, but what about Prouting? Prouting coming across the line very shortly as Baker finally leaves his pit box, but I think it's too late for Baker. I think Prouting is going to come out ahead. It's going to be very close here, and you can see that Baker just making his way out of the pit exit right now, and it is the case that both Prouting and Oosterhuis have made their way back ahead, but their battling has meant that they are incredibly close, and Baker right now could go on the offensive here and try and take the positions back to go for that podium. But right now with this, I can definitely tell you that this man right here, the BMW Motorrad driver from Germany of Jochen Seeger, he is right up there, as we're hearing that Billy Fletcher, oh goodness me, and Fletcher with an instant here into turn one. A very uncommon mistake, and literally what was a very comfortable lead now becomes a very pressured one. What has happened to our race leader? So making his way down towards turn one here, and as he was coming in, does the rear end just completely snap on him into the corner? It does. The rear just snaps under brake. I think that's a lock up on the rear brakes. And for Fletcher, with what was a dominant lead, it's not been bitten into too much. It's been bitten into by about 6 seconds. But Fletcher right now, after that, his closest opponent who has pitted is Kenny Heremans. But Heremans is the best part of about 32 seconds down the road. And as a result, Oistein Hereford here, who will be not focusing on Heremans or Fletcher, will be focused on just trying to get his way past Jean-Louis Deschamps, who he's been closing up to. I think for Fletcher versus what is Heremans right now, he will be feeling quite confident still, but that is definitely going to knock his confidence to extent, as we see Deschamps there getting it a little bit wrong out of turn 7. In the rundown towards 8, we can see here that Heremans really not too worried about this, because of course he's 30 seconds back, but we can see that Hereford definitely going for a fast move here, and as a result, as he comes through turn number 8, he gets it on the inside here, and Deschamps, I think, has taken too much out the tyres, because he is falling back like a stone right now as they make their way up towards what is turn number 11. And as they come on up the hill, further back here, Ben Fain is trying to find his way past Robert de Sunic here. And these two, of course, rivals. We have seen them battle one another time and time again in their brief duration in this series so far. And as they come running through 4 and 5, it is the case that Fain's battling with de Sunic, trying to find a way through. He can't find it at the moment. The two Porsche drivers in equal machinery. It all comes down to the driver as they make their way on through. And both drivers have pitted, so this is for final position as they come through turns 6 and 7. And it's the case that it looks as though Fain's is getting ever closer as we ride on board here with the Porsche driver. Does he look for the move into Dunlop? No, he does not. He waits, but de Sunic goes deep here. This could be an opportunity for the Belgian to look for a move on the Dutchman as they come out the corner. It's a race up the hills for Shaft. Hereford and Deschamps are all into the pits to go. Fletcher staying out, and as they make their way up the hill here, Fain's not able to capitalise as they come on up the hill and they head up towards turn number 11. But as they come into the braking zone here, no change. But you can see Fain's all over the back of his rival as they now make their way up into Bilstein at 12, and I do think there's going to be a potential move on from the Belgian very soon, because right now, being this close, you have to imagine it's going to go one of two ways. Either he's going to have to pit to undercut, or he's going to have to force a move on Fletcher, not Fletcher, on de Sunic as they make their way down towards turn number 40, in towards Vidal they come, heavy on the brakes here, the pair of them, and they make their way on through. No change as it currently stands. Now, meanwhile, as they make their way on through turn number 16, further down the order here, we are hearing that as it currently stands, the field is breaking open a little bit further. But Edward Lack, meanwhile, as we have got a car there that's gone a bit wayward, that looks to be, I'm not sure who that is. I think that's Oosterhuis who's had an instant. What's happened to Oosterhuis? Well, this is in the run up towards the Schumacher S here, and I think the rear of the car is going to snap. That doesn't look a comfortable car, and it does indeed. And that gives Baker the position for P3 in the AM class. Oosterhuis with a major hit into the wall there on the inside of the exit at turn number 10. I hope he's okay as he returns to the circuit. It looks as though he's okay, but the car is very heavily damaged as he makes his way now back onto the circuit. And we look back to Ed Lack in the meantime, who is chasing after Alexander Batak. Of course, the two drivers in different classes, and Lack trying to find his way back on through. As they make their way on up right now, we are hearing that there's been some technical issues there from Matt Prouting. So Joey Fernando Vlogs, I believe that is for Prouting, unless I'm very much mistaken. Well, that's not Prouting, unless that is potentially Matt. That's Matt Emmons we're hearing from. So thank you, Joey, in the YouTube chat. They're saying technical issues in Matt Emmons' car. Had to disconnect his wheel, ride on board his car now on Discord. So Matt Emmons with some technical issues, and the car is parked in the pits. That is very unfortunate for the driver who was looking to have one of his best results. But going from a driver who was looking to have one of his best results to a driver who's just come out the pits, and he's still in the lead with Kenny Herman's our P2 man right now, only the best part of 3.7 seconds behind him. We can see it is Fletcher leading, and I believe very shortly we are going to get word from Fletcher. No, in fact, we're not going to get word from Fletcher. I thought we might have been getting word from him in the cockpit of the car. That may happen at another time, but we can see that right now Fletcher doing everything to hold on to that lead for the time being. As Dasunik, meanwhile, in that P8 position, he is chasing. Well, Ben Faines has made the move. I can tell you that much. Ben Faines has made the pass. Let's see how it happened. Well, this is in the run down towards Vidal, and it was Ben Faines on the inside, Dasunik on the outside. Faines just simply sent it down the inside there. Nicely done, a smooth move, and Dasunik not putting up too much resistance there. I think respecting the fact that Faines was going to be the faster driver in the long haul, and the time had come for the pass to occur. But as they make their way through 1 and up into 2 right now, it is Colin Martin who continues that pursuit here, and we can see Colin Martin chasing after Prouting as they make their way on down towards turn number 1 once again. Oh, and it is the case. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I've just had it confirmed to me. So it is Matthew Prouting who's having technical issues here, who in P2 right now, chasing after you can see it, but the gap is roughly 12 seconds. So thank you for confirming, Joe Fernando Vlogs there in the YouTube chat. So it is Prouting who's had some technical issues, but to be fair, despite those technical issues, he's still doing a very good job here, is Prouting. And if you wonder if it were not for those technical issues, would he have been able to take home the AM win? But right now, we've still got 8 minutes to go. Anything can happen in 8 minutes remaining, of course. Say it's not so until the checker flag waves, but you can see it right now who we are looking at here, the BMW Motorrad driver. You would have to imagine that with 8 minutes remaining, will be feeling that he is on the path to seeing the top step of the podium once again in the M class. But as he makes his way roaring up through the Schumacher S's right now, we look a little bit further down the order, and it's George Bland who's trying to find his way past Ollie Wayne. And remember, Ollie Wayne, one of the 2 drivers trying to take the championship lead off of Bland, but based on the results tonight, in fact, it'll be the case that that championship lead will stay in Bland's favour, as it is Alexander Patak and Ollie Wayne, and they're only a couple places up the road. Well, Wayne's just directly in front of him, and then Alexander Patak is 2 places up, and right now Bland would finish P9 in the AM class, Wayne in P8, and Alexander Patak in B6. Meaning Bland would not secure the championship. His advantage would decrease slightly, but not enough to see the championship lead tip away from him. And of course, remember, we do have the double points finale in the Super Enduro race in a week's time, because it is only a single race, so all the points are up for grabs in the single race rather than over the course of the 2 races, as our drivers continue to make their way around on circuit. And as they do so here, it is George Bland who doing everything he can to try and get past Ollie Wayne. But I think right now that McLaren's struggling with its power deficit versus the Mercedes AMG that does seem to have the power on the acceleration zones and the straights. But meanwhile, our other 2 closest drivers right now, Colin Martin, Matthew Prouting, 2 drivers in 2 different classes, the Pro of Colin Martin versus the AM of what is Prouting. And we can see here that Prouting, I think, just focusing on keeping it together, and Martin inching closer to look for the move. And with now 6 minutes remaining, we are going to take a brief breather and a quick sip of water. And with the limited time remaining in the race, one driver I can tell you right now who is also on a charge. He does not want Fletcher to pull that lead open too far in the championship on him. It is Caruana who has been charging after Kenny Herman's lap after lap. And that last lap was a 53.95. And whilst Fletcher owns the fastest lap of 53.58, Caruana has been on similar pace. Here, one of his previous laps was a 53.75. Caruana, the Luxem 24 driver here, does not want his teammate having a clear run to the finish in terms of this championship. And as they make their way down towards turn 1 again, he will see Herman's right ahead of him. He will see Fletcher in the distance and be hoping that with 6 minutes to go and effectively 4 more laps, including this one, he can potentially take Herman's and therefore make it a damage limitation exercise. As Caruana with that early pit stop, as you will recall, that early pit stop in the end meaning that he was not able to capitalise perhaps the way he would have, and we do wonder whether it was damage on the car. as he chases after Heremans here, and it is now a case of 5 more minutes remaining. And can Heremans hold on here for P2, or will Caruana find a way on through as they come roaring down towards turn number 7? And this is really one of the closest battles out on circuit. And another battle that is growing is Addy versus Baker here. The two Ferrari drivers, you can see Addy at the centre of your camera, and Baker was just on the right hand side. He's passed through it as they make their way through Vidal right now. And as they come up through the fast chicane, you can see Baker at the foreground of your camera. And meanwhile, Addy behind the two Ferrari drivers, getting definitely much closer together here as they come roaring through turn number 16. But speaking about getting closer together, we ride on the gearbox here of what is Kenny Heremans, looking back from the Porsche driver as he has got the Audi driver of Caruana closing up under braking into turn number 11, and Caruana getting very close here as they come up into 12. And I think Caruana's going to be looking for the move. He's not been waiting long, and Caruana has pulled that gap down to a sliver as they come roaring up through turn number 13. They head down towards Vidal here. Will Heremans go to the inside, or will he think about just the racing line and bringing home a P3 result? He's going to stay on the racing line. Caruana tries to throw the dummy, but Heremans does not respond to it and instead stays on his racing line, holding on for the time being. But Caruana right now trying to close up as quickly as possible. And as we jump on board here with the Audi driver chasing after the Porsche just ahead of him right now, he will know that Fletcher is only 6 seconds up the road. It's too far, I think, for him to close down over the course of the remainder of the race distance, but Caruana will want to close that gap down as much as he can. But he's got to get past Heremans first. He looks to do the cutback here into turn 1. Heremans goes a bit deep, but he holds here, and as they come up into 2, there's no way through as they go through the arena right now with Caruana. Watch here, Caruana will probably try to throw another cutback into turn number 3. He goes a little bit deep here. He looks at that earlier apex, but Heremans parks on apex there. The two pros knowing how to stop one another from gaining time as they make their way through turns 4 and 5 and down towards 6. And you can imagine that Heremans right now a very effective defence through the arena, but can he continue that now into sectors 2 and 3? As they come down into sector 2, then through turns 6 and 7 here, and again you can see Heremans really struggling for apex speed, and in fact their Caruana having so much more rotation in the car that he had to back off in the end, because otherwise he would have clipped the back of Heremans, who is understeering heavily into these corners. And as they come through turn number 8 here through the Dunlop curve, you can see Heremans having to park it on the apexes now. He is under huge pressure, and it's the case that Caruana has got a lot more pace in that car. That pace is being bottled up here, and it is the cork of Heremans that needs to be released from the bottle. But will he have the forceps to be able to pull it out, or will it be the case that he's not able to as they make their way through turn number 11? And as they do so here, you can see once again, much like on the previous iteration of the circuit, it is the case that Caruana is just not able to find a way through. He's got so much more pace, it would seem, but when it comes down to the overall pass, but he's going to be looking for it here surely as they make their way down towards turn 14. And this time Heremans goes heavy defence to the inside here, and Caruana looks to go around the outside on the racing line, trying to get Heremans to lock himself in on a deeper line. And that's Gareth Mills at the foreground of the camera, who's a lap down right now, and they will, both Heremans and Caruana will be hoping that the back marker will work to their advantage and to the detriment of their rival as they make their way down towards turn number 1. And as they do so here, we can imagine that it's the case that Mills moves out the way immediately. He knows he doesn't want to be in this, but Caruana looks once again to the inside, but he just cannot get the overspeed. And it looks as though whilst Heremans may not have the pace, one thing he does have is the brakes, and he's making them work. But Caruana's going to try and sweep around the outside here into turn 3 as they come out of 2 and into 3. He continues on that outside line. And can he make this work? Surely this is going to be very brave stuff, and in the end he just does not have the overall grip there on the tyres to stay alongside out of 3 and into 4, but it was a good attempt right now. And as they make their way down towards what is turn number 6, we look away briefly because Matthew Addy made a pass on Mark Baker moments ago, and this was in the run out of turn 8. This was the battle for P3 in the AM class, and I think Baker just went a bit deep there, and Addy got the move done by a natural result. But meanwhile, coming back to our battle for what is P2 overall, you can see Heremans on the inside through turn 8. Caruana trying to go around the outside, but again he just cannot find enough space to get around on the side of what is Heremans' car and stay there right now. And Heremans knowing where he can put that Porsche to defend right now. And this is a phenomenal defense from Heremans as they make their way up towards turn number 11. As they come into the braking zone here, how can Caruana outfox Heremans as they make their way through into 12? Well, he's fallen back a little bit here. Perhaps he's just trying to give himself a breather, or perhaps trying to get Heremans to think he's not on the charge. And as he makes his way through 12, he's immediately there again. It's almost as if there's a turbo button on the Audi compared to the Porsches. They make their way down from 13 into 14, up into Vidal they come. This time Caruana's on the outside, Heremans defends the inside here, but Caruana staying much closer as meanwhile our race leader goes on to the final lap, onto the 32nd lap, and as these guys come through, they go on to their final tour of the circuit. Heremans has to hold on for one more lap here. Can he do it? That is the big question. He goes defensive immediately in the run down towards one, then weaving back into the middle of the circuit here before pulling back into the defensive line for one. Caruana looks around the outside. This is critical in the championship going into the final round. We can see Heremans there squeezing Caruana to the runoff area in the outside. I think Caruana may not be too happy about that one as they make their way on through, and as they come down towards turn number 3, this has bought Heremans significant time, but Caruana will be right there with him, I'm sure, as they make their way through and head up towards what is turn number 6 very shortly. You see Caruana weaving from side to side, then flashing his lights. He is not happy, I think, with the contact between the two of them, and Heremans pushing him wide on the exit of 1 as they make their way up towards what is now turn number 8. And as they come charging down, we have to cut away briefly, ladies and gentlemen, as into the pits. We're hearing just coming into the pits right now. Oh, goodness. Oh, no! And for Jochen who was about to take the win in what was the amateur class, in the end, with a sudden late incident, it is going to be, I believe, Matthew Proutin who takes the lead with a damaged car. He goes on to the final lap, but that is a shock, and I'm not sure what's happened there. But meanwhile, we can see that Billy Fletcher making his way down towards 13 right now. It's late dramatics as we have seen a change, and you can see it dropping all the way down the order, but we can see that Heremans versus Caruana is the case, that Caruana's looking on the outside here in the run up towards the Vidal chicane, but as they do so, as our leader comes through the final corner, he will take the wins back to back today. It is another win for Billy Fletcher, as this is critical in his championship. A brilliant drive from Fletcher, and in the end, it is the case that both Heremans and Caruana coming into the pits here. I'm not sure what's going on, unless we've already seen the checker flag and there's been some sort of glitch, but both drivers into the pits here, and they've crossed the timing lines. Heremans and Caruana P2, P3. Tony Verschaft in the end is going to come home in P4. This is a very confusing ending to the race, but a brilliant drive from Verschaft. There's Øystein Herford in P5 there. Jean-Louis Deschamps comes home in what is P6 on the lead lap after 32 laps of racing, but this is getting to be a very odd finale, I must say, with regards to this feature race. As he comes across the line there, Deschamps in P6, a great drive for the Delta Motorsport driver. Ben Fainson will come home in P7 when all is said and done, as he comes across the timing line there. And then it's going to be Robert de Sunik here who makes his way out of the final corner. A good race from Robert de Sunik. Wasn't able to keep Fains behind him, but a P8 showing his pace over the course of this season. And then Didi de Verlaming will be our 9th driver to come across the finish line on the lead lap, and he'll be our 9th pro as well. So our 9 pros there completing our top 9. And then as he makes his way through here to complete his race, a great drive from Vlaming as well. It is then going to be Matthew Prouting who takes the win in the pit lane here in the amateur class with a complete shock turn of events. We believe he takes the win. A great drive from Prouting. And it's Matthew Addy in P2, Mark Baker in P3 in the AMS. And then it's going to be Arjan Bakker who comes across the line in P4. Baker and Bakker both having very good races, and Addy as well to come through the field, as with Prouting. Edward Lack in P14 overall, Alexander Batak for P5 in the amateur class, Ollie Wayne in the end in P6, we believe, as he comes through the final corner. But a lot of drivers, I think, running out of fuel and having to come into the pits at very short notice, or something has gone very wrong. But Ollie Wayne crossing the finish line there in what is P16 overall, P7, P6 we believe in the AM class. And then we've got Oosterhuis here finishing in P17 overall. That is P7 or P8. We've got some glitch at our time screen right now. I'm a bit confused as to what's happened here, ladies and gentlemen. There's definitely been some major mix-up. We'll find out shortly, but we can see George Bland also coming into pits right now with his race completed. A very difficult race for our drivers, and one with a lot of drama, and we'll be hearing from 2 of those drivers who were able to avoid the majority of the drama. That will be Billy Fletcher and what we believe is Matthew Prouting, our 2 winners, very shortly. Don't go anywhere. We've got those interviews coming up within the next 2 to 4 minutes. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, apologies for the delay. Do need to explain what's happened there to a degree. We've had a bit of confusion with regards to all the pit stops at the end of the race, and we've had some clarity. A significant number of people seem to have to go into the pits to take time penalties at the end of the race for, say, track limits or other circumstances. So what you saw, particularly with the AM drivers there, were Jochen Seeger making his way into the pits. There seems to be a panic reaction from Jochen Seeger, and he's just mentioned that into the YouTube chat as well. Sorry, guys, was a panic reaction. Sorry and apologies. That's no problem at all. So I don't know specifically about Jochen Seeger's case, but what I do know for the discrepancy between Prouting and Matthew Addy winning, because on the official iRacing timesheets it said that Addy had won, whereas we saw that Prouting had won. Prouting had crossed the timing line in the pit lane but had not served the time penalty, which means that Addy, once the penalty is applied, is our winner. So it is Matthew Addy who is our winner for the AM class, and therefore we'll be bringing you an interview of him very shortly. But first, having put a degree of that confusion to bed, let's get our interview with Billy Fletcher once again, our winner of the Pro category. Hello again, Billy.
Hello.
2 wins back to back, 2 returns to the top step in both the sprint and the feature race. How does it feel to have picked up perhaps the maximum points haul today?
Nice to finally have a clean sweep again. It's to be honest, I had the Hockenheim winning the feature race, obviously through our bad result in the sprint race, but it's been a while since we've managed to take a couple of wins on pure pace. So yeah, I'm really chuffed with it.
Was absolutely fantastic driving yourself, and from the start we saw you come up through the field very rapidly. Just take us through those opening couple laps, because I think by the end of lap 5 you were already up to P10 and flying.
I don't know, if I'm honest. It was cars spinning left, right, centre. I was in the main chat with everybody, and there was people shouting. There was some swear words. There was some issues by the sounds of it on race 1 at the start on lap 1. It was just a case of keep your eyes peeled, eyes on stilts, and just look for anything sliding, anything that could possibly come back across the track. And for once, we got a bit of luck, and we picked our way through quite nicely. I think I was in 11th or 12th at the end of lap 1, and then we went into fuel-saving mode once we got behind Heremans and Deschamps. It's just a case of save as much fuel. I did try making it hard for myself by crashing, but other than that, straightforward race.
Yes, so now coming on to particularly that instant there going into turn 1, it looked as though just a brief moment where the car did not seem to want to turn through the corner, and then you got a lot of oversteering to the corner. Just what exactly happened there?
The rear wheels were pretty much locked the whole way into the corner. I was fuel saving. I wasn't pushing. I rolled off the throttle about 150 metre board. I started braking at 100, and I got quite a slide on through the last chicane, and I think I just overheated the rear tyres a little bit. And as I sort of applied the brake, I could feel through the wheel that the rear had gone light. I started putting in a bit of opposite lock, so I went into the corner, turning left, even though I was trying to turn right. And I thought I was okay, and I kind of just held the car in a little bit of a drift going in, and then it got to it drops down at the apex, and it just rotated on me, and I couldn't save it.
Well, I think one of our viewers, KTeams on Facebook, will probably be bringing up one of the comments from earlier when you went off circuit at the end of the sprint race, where it looked as though you were power sliding your way back onto circuit, and I think you were putting your power sliding skills to work there into turn 1, she would argue.
Yeah, so it was. I think the new tyre model, I think, is brilliant. You get a kind of differential between the surface temp to the tyres and the carcass, and as I said, I got a slide on through the chicane at the previous lap. And I think I just carried that tyre temperature down to turn 1, and so when I got on the brakes a bit too hard, the rear just went light, and I was like, I'm all right, this is okay, I can deal with this. And I got to the turning point, and I was like, no, I can't deal with this. The car just rotated on me.
So from that point onwards, when the car rotated on you, and of course making the recovery, you lost approximately 7 seconds in the process of recovering the car. Did your approach to the rest of the race change? Did you perhaps dial it down a bit, or was it still the case of, much like before, you seem to, once you're out front, just keeping that gap as much as possible?
I went full attack when I had the spin, because obviously I knew that Kenny wouldn't be far behind me. I knew Matt had pitted early, and he was popping his way back through the field, so I went full attack once I made the error. I think I set one of my fastest laps on the last couple of laps of the stint, and then pit got out, I was about 3.5 seconds ahead, and I went sort of full attack again, just tried to put a little bit of a gap. I knew Matt would be chasing Kenny down like there's no tomorrow, so I thought if Matt gets onto the back of Kenny, it should relieve a bit of pressure off, but I did have to step it up a touch just to pull that safe gap back out again.
I see. And with that, imagine that gap in the end, coming out of the pit 7 seconds up, 6 seconds up the road from what was Kenny Herriman's, and then seeing Fletcher just behind him, Fletcher having to try, not Fletcher, my apologies, Caruana trying to force his way past Herriman's, and in the end not being able to. When you saw the two of them battling, was it smiles all the way to the end, or still head down and just get on with the job?
Smiles, because I know how hard of a racer Matt is, and I knew Matt would be giving Herriman's an absolute workover. So I kind of see Matt, the gap between Herriman's and Matt getting closer and closer and closer, and I thought I need that to happen because I know there's not enough time for Matt to get me unless I made a big error. But yeah, just seeing Matt attacking Kenny was a big help for me, kind of thing.
And speaking of big help, these two wins today, increasing your lead in the championship by a small amount. Matt, of course, doing quite a bit of damage limitation. And next week we head to the final round at Spa with the Super Endurance 2-hour race, where it's double points up for grabs. How are you feeling for the Belgian circuit?
Pretty good. I enjoy Spa. I usually have decent pace. I've had a league race this season around there, an hour and 45-minute enduro for the WGT Racing. And I started, I think it was 52nd, and I finished 11th. So I've got pace around there. I know Matt's going to be fast around there as ever. So I think the problem I've got is with the double points. Even if I finish second, I think he still pits me in the championship. So it's going to come down to whoever wins that last one, whoever takes the championship.
Well, we look forward to seeing you out on the circuit at Spa and seeing how it all comes to its conclusion. But until then, congratulations on the pair of wins today. A brilliant pair of drives from yourself, and we look forward to seeing you out on the circuit in a week's time.
Cheers, Paul. See you next week.
So hearing that from Billy Fletcher with regards to his performance in the feature race there, and a very controlled performance, minus that one mistake into turn one. But again, it was a case of, well, after that mistake, he still had his head down and putting in the laps. And in the end, when he saw that it was a case of Caruana being behind, Herriman's able to smile to the finish line, knowing it would be the case that he'd have the gap to make it home. And indeed, as Fletcher says, with double points up for grabs in a week's time, I do think it's the case that whoever takes the win out of the pair of them will take the win in the championship. But we'll wait and see and give you all the details on the points in the build up to that race at a later date. But now we must come over to our winner in the AM class, and that is Matthew Addy. Hello Matthew, can you hear me?
Hello, yes I can.
Matthew, whilst it was under a lot of debate for some time and some confusion around the timings, in the end we had it confirmed that you were our winner in the AM category for the feature race. Congratulations. How does it feel taking home the win at the Nürburgring?
Thank you. Yeah, it's surprising. I wasn't surprised to be here, to be honest. And yeah, it was a bit of a mixed up with the results, but it seems that Prowling got a penalty at the end there. So yeah, once it worked itself out, yeah, it's good.
And with the penalty, just dialing everything back before the very end, starting quite a way back down the field after what was an okay-ish sprint race for yourself, what was the tactic going into this race?
Just to score points, to be honest. It's been a long time since I've had a double points finish in this series. So yeah, just points were on the board. It didn't matter how many, just at least I didn't get a 0 on one of the races.
And with that in mind, with a number of incidents at the start of this feature race, did you find yourself in amongst those incidents, or was it much like our winner in the pro category, Fletcher, just being able to avoid the incidents and make the ground?
Luck was on my side this time, to be honest. I saw quite a few incidents in front of me, people spinning, but thankfully they were on the brakes quite early, so they didn't really roll into my path. I spun myself once in the hairpin, but managed to get away and recover quite quick, to be honest.
We briefly caught word of that spin. Did that change your approach to the race from that point onwards, or was it still the case of head down, just get on with business?
No, still head down, to be honest. Yeah, I didn't let up in my approach. I expected the tyres to go off towards the latter of the race, but to be honest, it held on pretty well.
And one moment in particular that really shouts out, seeing two Ferrari 488s battling on the circuit, yourself and Mark Baker, a fantastic battle in the end, settled, I believe, by Baker making a mistake at turn 8. Just talk us through that battle that did go on for quite some time.
It did, yeah. Mark's a good racer. I had a quick word with him a minute ago and we congratulated each other. It was a really good race. I thought that it was really tricky, to be honest. He is quite fast, so I'm not sure I was going to get much of an overlap if I did get an overtake on him at all. So just kept the pressure on a little bit, and yeah, he just made that little mistake. Really, we all do it.
Oh, indeed. And with one mistake giving you the advantage to charge on from that point onwards, with time starting to bear down on the race, was the idea just keep pushing for positions, or at that point had you sort of reached the pinnacle of what you thought you could achieve in the race?
No, I still felt pretty fast, to be honest. It was keep pushing. I could see that the other person was up front, and I was trying to catch them, to be honest. But my fuel was running low, really low, and I finished across the line with no fuel. So yeah, I was cautious that was gonna hamper me, really.
I see. Well, it did not hamper you today, and indeed it seemed as though a lot of drivers seemed to be hampered by the need to come into the pits at the very end. We saw Jochen Siegert fall to it. We saw Prouting fall to it. Indeed, a lot of drivers had a lot of confusion. I think our viewers are still wondering exactly what on earth happened there. I am indeed myself. But still, you were the one in the end to take the checkered flag in the AM class and picking up the win today. What can we expect from yourself in a week's time at Spa in the Super Endurance race?
I like Spa, good track, but I always have bad luck on it. So hopefully, again, a double points finish. Oh, so there's only one race. So yeah, a good points finish. But in the terms of the championship, I can't actually progress anymore. I think mathematically, I'm out of any progression in that. So just have a good race, really have a bit of fun.
Oh, that's good to hear. And putting yourself out there for the race at Spa, we look forward to seeing you take to the Belgian circuit. But until then, congrats on the win in the feature race and have a fantastic evening.
Thanks, Paul. See you next week.
Hearing from Matthew Addy there, very happy with the result. Obviously, the confusion at the end there about whether he'd won or alternatively just finished on the podium probably didn't help with regards to both himself and other drivers as well knowing exactly what happened. But finally, getting that result confirmed by the iRacing official timings, and as a result, here and there, very happy with the result and having to manage the race at the end, running low on fuel. But one thing we do know with Matthew Addy, we've seen him over the course of this season really build up that growing pace and also that management of the car and that brilliant battle with Mark Baker. And to hear that immediately after the race, both drivers got out the cars and congratulated one another on a fantastic battle. That is fantastic to hear in sportsmanship at its finest. But with that, having concluded our post-race interviews for the feature race, it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. And if you do want to know more about the NextGen Racing community, why not check us out on our official racing website? That is nextgenracing.co.uk. Or if you're on Facebook, why not check us out on our Facebook group? That is NextGen Racing under facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing. Also, a huge thank you to our partners, Apex Racing Academy and Next Level Racing, without whom it would not be possible to bring you this series with all its fantastic racing and the prizes up for store. And next time, as previously mentioned, we head to Belgium for Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, round number 12. Put the date in the calendar, Wednesday the 13th of October 2021. There's only one race. It is the 2-hour Super Endurance. We had one at Silverstone at round number 6, and now we come full circle for the race at Spa in round number 12. The season finale, and both the Amateur Championship and the Pro Championship have yet to be decided. Will it be that both George Bland and Billy Fletcher walk away with their respective championships in their hands, or will we see a spin in the tail? Because as we look to the pictures right now, as we get a brief preview of what it looks like to be at Spa with Matt Emmons behind the wheel in the Lamborghini Huracan, you can imagine that for all our drivers right now, they will need to tame the legendary Belgian circuit, which over the years has been a key stepping stone in a number of F1 championships, and also in other series as well. It has been a circuit that has seen the rise and fall of many drivers, and will we see that be the case in our championship in a week's time? We'll have to wait and find out, as we will be expecting all our drivers to be eagerly practicing. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be one that you're going to have to wait for. So with that, it's goodbye for me. I have been Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And we have been NextGen Racing. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling. And most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.